Good morning, everybody, and welcome, or good evening, everybody, and welcome to the East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors PM meeting agenda for April 21st, 2022, 6:30 p.m. Just a reminder, a recording device will be used during this meeting. And we're going to open the meeting tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to open up with public comment for agenda items. Rules of conduct of public meetings established by Resolution 2001-08. The time allotted to each individual making a comment shall be 3 minutes unless otherwise set by the presiding officer. Additional public comment may be granted at the discretion of the presiding officer at the conclusion of the meeting. So we'll open it up for public comment for agenda items. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, and I don't think we have any tonight, do we? Okay, so we're going to go to the treasurer's report and the authorization to pay bills.
Mr. Chairman, shall I read a abridged version of the balances into the record?
Sure.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The balance in the general fund checking account was $1,025,262.22. The balance in the fund due from developer was $93,832.45. And the balance in the fund due from stormwater applicants was a negative $4,360.90. In our special revenue funds, the fire service fund had a balance of $110,009.43. Solid waste fund had a balance of $132,281.44. The traffic impact fee fund had a balance of $1,794,185.63. The open space referendum fund had a balance of $3,246,520.22. The open space developer fee fund had a balance of $95,946.73. Township capital funds had a total of $1,308,571.14. The township state fund had a balance of $465,279.05. And of the two pension funds, the uniformed pension fund had a balance of $5,932,419.14, and the non-uniformed pension fund had a balance of $2,047,306.70. Respectfully submitted from the Township Treasurer.
Thank you. I already had a minute to go through everything earlier before today and again today, so I'm good. I'll let you guys take your time and do what you want to go through. But the one thing I did want to talk to is invoice check number 1213 for Honeywell International. There's a check for $6,000. Where are we with? We had just had this discussion a couple weeks ago about what we were going to do with the HVAC system.
That's correct. A few meetings ago, there were two proposals on the board's agenda. One was for the replacement of the computer software, the central brains of our HVAC system, and the other was for a environmental study that would have been a comprehensive review of the of the system for the purposes of determining improvements we could make to be funded by COVID dollars. The board approved the environmental study, and the board postponed a decision on replacing the software pending the outcome of the environmental study. The bill that you referenced is for the environmental study. And I'm going to put Matt, you on the spot for a moment. Have they conducted that study?
They've begun the study. The study is not complete to date.
Ballpark time. I mean, is this something they're thinking it's 3 man days, or is this something that's a couple of weeks?
I would imagine it's a couple weeks. The one representative from Honeywell was out about a week and a half ago and did followed an assessment that was provided to him from, I guess, from Honeywell themselves, and there's a team that's examining the assessment according to,
All right, so the $6,000 check is just for this assessment?
correct.
Okay.
And it should be on the check should appear as, it's from the capital fund that is being paid for with the federal
Federal fund,
ARPA
right,
funds.
right.
Yes.
Understood. Anybody have any questions on the
No,
financials?
I've reviewed all the disbursements and the treasurer's report, so I don't have any questions.
Jason?
I'm good. Then I'll make a motion, if that's okay, to accept the treasurer's report and authorize the payment of bills. And is this the time to introduce end payroll?
Yes. Yep.
I'm asking Luke.
For the benefit of everybody else present, you and I have had a brief conversation. Payroll is processed through an electronic fund transfer.
Correct.
It's automatically deducted from the township's accounts. All of the reports that are included in the reporting monthly to the Board of Supervisors are what you vote to approve is the checks. And it's not a check, so it's not in what you usually review. Payroll expenditures do appear in the budget performance reports that are presented to you each month. Yeah, if you would like to amend the standard motion to pay the bills as presented and also to approve payroll in the period since the last meeting, this would be the time to do it.
Well, I hate to get into nuts and bolts of things, but that's what accountants do sometimes. So technically, when we approve the budget, we're approving the payroll. And I know in previous governmental units that I've served in an elective office, that is how they approve their payrolls, the school district, for example. With that said, the budget approval process and the internal controls are a lot different than what we have. So I had suggested maybe we include the pay bills and payroll disbursements in the motion so that, and there's a way we can actually, in fact, EFTs are actually on the checklist. So we could actually put those transfers on the checklist just so, you know, it'd be totals. So if the other supervisors don't mind, I think we ought to also be approving the
I'm fine with that.
payrolls. Okay, so my motion would be to approve the treasurer's report and authorization to pay bills and the payrolls
I'll second.
included in this period.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may interrupt, Lisa, for future agendas for the PM meeting, can we have that language reflected in the agenda item? Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Nope, you're up again now anyway for Township Manager's Report.
Okay, thank you. Next Wednesday, the Ordinance Task Force will be reviewing the first complete draft of a new comprehensive plan. The Ordinance Task Force has been working with consultants Thomas Committa Associates and the Brandywine Conservancy on this project for about a year. The project is also generously funded in part through a Vision Partnership Program awarded to the township by Chester County. I would like to extend an invitation to the members of the board to be active in this part of the consideration of the comprehensive plan. You are always welcome to attend the task force meetings. The remaining milestones in adopting a comprehensive plan are pending ordinance task force recommendation. It will proceed to the Township's Planning Commission. After the Planning Commission, it will proceed to the board, not for adoption, but for referral for Act 247 review and to begin a public comment period. It's anticipated that the earliest that the plan could be considered on the agenda for adoption would be approximately August. Just a note, the annual PSATS conference is April 24th through 27th. This is the first time in 3 years that they've been able to have the meeting in person. Supervisor Croft and I will be attending and thus be out of the office on Monday and Tuesday of next week. Chester County was awarded approximately $1.2 million in American Rescue Plan funds for 2021.
Did you say 1.2 million or
Oh,
102?
102
2
million.
million, right, 102 million.
$102 million. The county has announced that it, in turn, is accepting applications for funding requests from municipalities, public authorities, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations. Supervisor Croft has taken the lead on writing an application for a project for the township. The selected project is part of our 2018 MPDES pollution reduction plan, and it is the stream restoration of the Culbertson Run through the Hideaway Farms neighborhood. My thanks to Carl for diving in on the grant writing. Applications are due on the 15th or 16th of May. I also would report that the municipal authority is making an application. Their application would involve improvements that are needed to the Keats Glen wastewater treatment plant located near the community college. As usual, I make some announcements of public events that are happening before the next PM session of the Board of Supervisors on April 24th, which is this Sunday. There will be a historical commission spring speaker series speaker about the Lenape in East Brandywine. On May 15th, there will be another historical commission speaker. It'll be the author of Henson's Heroes, Black Civil War Soldiers of Chester County. Both of those events are on Sundays and at 2:30 p.m. On May 18th, the Parks and Recreation fundraiser for the Parks golf outing will be hosted at the Honeybrook Golf Club. We are still accepting applications for foursomes and sponsors, so please consider joining the volunteers of Parks and Recreation Committee in this important fundraiser. Also, not on my report, but I did want to make just a brief mention. I'm going to switch over in the camera here. We were dead. Got a dead battery here. As a follow-up to a conversation that happened at the last meeting regarding electronic packets, we have opted not to have electronic packets. They have paper packets before you, but we did adopt the portion of the original proposal that facilitated public involvement in the packet. I draw your attention to the Agenda Center on the website. If you click on tonight's meeting, you will see a list of all the materials that are included in your packet so that anyone with internet-enabled device could see what the board sees in a public meeting. Staff is using the following general rules for processing, preparing agenda and materials for your consideration. On the Friday before a Thursday meeting, a draft of the agenda is sent to the members of the board for your consideration. By the close of business on the Monday before a Thursday meeting, the agenda is posted online. No amendments are made to the agenda within less than 24 hours prior to a meeting due to Act 21 of due to the new rule regarding agendas passed last year. And packet materials will be posted at the close of business on the Wednesday prior to a Thursday meeting. So we're not, as they come in, posting agenda items, but we are posting them prior to the meeting.
Since you're on the screen, it just dawned on me something that happened to me yesterday. I went to print, as we were talking about wasted paper, I went to print a building permit.
Mhm.
And what used to be 12 pages now comes out as 72 pages. Is that something that got tweaked in our system? Now it gives you, when you print building permit, it gives you stormwater management, it gives you everything.
Yeah, so let me navigate over to that page. There have been no recent changes, but you may have not been there recently. So the building permit applications.
Required for all permits, standard building, zoning.
Right. As you're completing the standard building and zoning permit application form, you may be asked to use one of the attachments. For example, if while filling it out, you discover that you need to do stormwater management, you would use the attachment for stormwater management.
Is that new though? Because I never had that. If before I would print it, it would be 12 pages. Yesterday I was shocked when I went to my printer, there were 72 pages there.
I'm opening it here. I don't recall it being 72. There might be an issue here that I'm not aware of.
72.
72 pages. This must be the whole thing?
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is, I'm sure I'm not the only one who was
Freaked
taken back
out.
yesterday.
Right. So probably what this represents is the consolidated packet with all of the attachments. And the intent in posting this was only to have the basic part and then to have the other, these attachments appear separately.
So we'll have to fix that because that, like I said, people applying for permits are gonna be freaked out when they see 72 pages.
Thank you for bringing it to my attention. You
Wow.
are correct.
All right, sorry, I just want, we can address that tomorrow, but I just wanted to point that out. But continue with your,
I was already at the end of my report and ad-libbing. You don't want me to keep going. But thanks for bringing that to my attention.
you wanna do building inspectors or is,
Sure. All right, for March 2022, a total of 28 building permits were issued. A total of 4 zoning permits were issued. The fees collected for both building and zoning permits were $18,607. There were 21 use and occupancy permit issues, 181 inspections, including 45 failed inspections, and total fees collected were $22,247. And I would amend my earlier statement. So the failed inspection is 45 and a half, and I don't know how you half fail an inspection, but that is the record. Respectfully submitted by Noreen King, our permits administrator.
understood. All right, I'll turn it over to Matt, Roadmaster report.
I did not provide a written report this month, but I do have the Public Works labor report. So we have begun using Bamboo, which tracks all the hourly reports for the Public Works, including myself. So this is what it will look like. We just implemented it about the beginning or the middle of March. And the guys and myself are getting used to using it, so it's going to be a little, I'm going to say sloppy or whatever until we figure out and get all the bugs worked out of it.
Understood.
On this report, I think Luke showed me that he was experimenting with some things, and one of the things that I think would be helpful in this report is to have the pie graph. Luke, have you shared that with Matt, had time to share that with Matt at all?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And it would be 2 pies. One would be the current month, the other would be year-to-date. And I think it would make it easier for everybody to read a pie graph and to see the percentages of each of these areas. I thought it was a kind of a neat presentation.
One of the issues that, well, myself and my guys are having is, I think we have too many tasks in here to choose from. So it's making it a little bit difficult for the guys to figure out which one which task to pick. So I was talking to Luke earlier, and we're going to try and whittle it down a little bit just to simplify things.
Okay.
Thank you. Chief, I'll turn it over to you for the police report.
Good evening. The report for March 2022, the police department will be participating in the Downingtown Area School District's Connections Team and Law Enforcement Food Drive, which is being held this Saturday at Lionville Middle School. That's located at 550 West Euclid Avenue, Exton, PA. That will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We are teamed up with the local food banks to collect non-perishable goods, hygiene, and baby supplies. An organization called the Love of Canine will also be there with fosters for adoption if anyone is interested in adopting a dog. The police department has added 2 new members to our police family over the last couple of weeks. Congratulations go out to Officer Alex Reed and his wife Alexa and Officer Maureen Ray and her wife Sarah on the birth of their baby daughters. I'm very happy to report that both moms and babies are doing well. One item that's not on my agenda that I wanted to just update the board on, as you know, since last September, we've had Downingtown PD housed with us. They lost their building and facilities and almost all their equipment during the flooding of Hurricane Ida. They, this past week, began to move back down to their building, and as of this afternoon, they had been moved down. They still do not have their cell block open, so we will still be assisting them with arrests and just processing of prisoners at our facility, but the majority of their operations are relocated. Total monthly events for the township, we had 2,487 events registered with the county. We completed 192 investigations. We had 6 criminal arrests, no summary arrests. We had 3 warrant arrests, no juvenile petitions. Department handled 7 traffic accidents. There were 153 traffic citations issued. There were 77 traffic warnings issued, and the officers logged 10,377 miles of patrol. Training completed for the month. Lieutenant Yankanich and Officer Harnish attended the annual PLEIC, which is our accreditation conference. Sergeant Ferrara and Officer Harnish completed their TASER instructor recertification. Lieutenant Yankanich and Sergeant Tyree attended the Cody RMS conference, and myself, Lieutenant Yankanich, and Corporal Office attended our certification through the District Attorney's Office on a drug diversion program called LEADA. You have copies of the monthly investigation list and the officers' activity reports. That's all I have.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Chief for the East Brandywine Fire Company report.
Thank you. The fire company report for the month of March 2022. The fire company responded to a total of 54 incidents for the month. 36 of those were fire-related, 18 of those were medical-related. In East Brandywine Township, we responded to 11 fire calls and 10 medical calls. West Brandywine Township, 13 fire calls and 8 medical calls. And we had 2 fire calls in Upper Euclid Township. We responded mutual aid 4 times to Callan, and then 1 time to Euclid Township, Valley Township, Wallace, West Bradford, West Dampmill, and West Nottingham, all for 1 time. An average number of 10 people per call. As last month's report, there was the number with the asterisk next to it. We averaging 17 people per building fire, so that number still continues to stay steady and go up, which is phenomenal. Our fuel usage for the month, East Brandywine Township was 88.1 gallons, West Brandywine Township 240.2 for a total of 328.3. We had no fire damage, injuries, or fatalities in the month of March. We had 3 trainings with an average number of 22 people in attendance. Just something to note, on April 11th, which was, I guess, 9 days ago, we had a incident at 155 Crawford Road. Folks were there working on the house, I guess, during the daytime. Disposed of some rags out on the front porch, which caused a bunch of trash to ignite on the front porch, which from the neighbor's house appeared to be a working house fire. So the company was dispatched for a structure fire, arrived to determine it was just small trash fire on the front porch with minor extension into the house. I will say it was a great collaborative effort between the fire department and the police department. No one was home because the house was recently just sold at a sheriff's sale. So the person that bought it was in the process of fixing it. So we had no contractor information, homeowner information. So it was very suspicious at the time when it happened. So we worked through that. Then it was deemed in the morning to have been accidental from the fire marshal's office. So those numbers and figures will be attached to next month's report. But I know we had some folks call in. Crawford Road, as everyone knows, is a very narrow roadway. That's a non-hydrant area for us. So If we have an incident on that road or any road that's that narrow, it's a very delicate situation. So a lot of the trucks had to get off the road to keep the roadway open so we can get an adequate water supply established. So there were some folks that got some damage in their front yard from trucks going off the roadway. If anyone gets any, people that are concerned or want that fixed, you can contact the fire department and we'll get them in touch with the people that would do that. The fire department does not assume that responsibility to fix those damages. That falls back on the property owner of which the incident occurred at. So, and we'll be happy to share that information with the folks if they need it. So, otherwise, we were very fortunate last night. We had Township Manager Revin stop down the station, so we were able to give him a tour on the updated construction project. The builders have told us that hopefully by Memorial Day it'll be done, so fingers crossed. We'll see. They tell us the siding is being shipped and should be delivered shortly, so we won't have to look at the blue paint on the exterior of the building much longer. So we're hopefully in the home stretch, hopefully by end of June, beginning of July, we'll be all moved back in and back up to our normal standard. So that's it for the fire company's report.
Thank you very much. Luke, is there a reason why we're doing the planning commission minutes for the, in the reports and not for the minutes of previous meetings? Am I missing something?
Well, here's a very long answer. The MPC requires that the Planning Commission make regular reports to the Board of Supervisors regarding its activity. Their reports, in our tradition, has been in the form of sharing their minutes with the Board of Supervisors. But the Board of Supervisors isn't adopting the Planning Commission's minutes. Only the Planning Commission adopts its minutes. But it does share essentially their Planning Commission minutes are their report to the board.
Understood.
And therefore, they appear under reports and not under minutes to adopt.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the March planning commission minutes? I guess we don't.
I think he just said
Yeah,
we don't have to
we don't have to
approve it.
really
We
do
don't approve it. They approve it, but then they pass it on to us as their report.
Right. I would.
Acknowledge that we've read it, or?
Exactly. I think at this point, I would respectfully ask that the board have a motion to accept all the minutes, all the reports that were
Understood.
presented.
Understood.
All right, I move we accept all the reports.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have no old business, new business, resignation of Michael Wagner from the planning commission, and I have Luke for that.
Yeah, this is the least favorite part of my job. We're losing the services of one of our volunteers. Member of the Planning Commission, Michael Wagner, has submitted his resignation from the Planning Commission. The good news is that he will remain active with the Trails and Ordinance Task Force, and he's present in the audience. And I'd like to extend my thanks for your service on the Planning Commission on behalf of the township.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Michael.
And
Perfect. Well, I obviously really appreciate all of your assistance, and hopefully someday we'll convince you back. All right.
So I would ask the board to make a motion to accept the resignation. That will create the
Option for the vacancy.
right, and
Yep.
and the Planning Commission has leads for a recommendation to fill the unexpired term left vacant by his resignation. But
I'd like to make a motion with regret that we accept Michael Wagner's resignation from the Planning Commission.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Vincent Welk from 1228 Osborne Road, concerns regarding the preserve at Horseshoe Meadow. Please, just come
yeah,
right up to
up
the
to the
stadium and, or
microphone.
podium. Stadium.
Yes, I spoke to, I guess it was the Planning Commission. I missed the initial meeting because there was no notification sent out because the zoning had been changed, but I wasn't aware of it. So I border the side of the property that will have the access way into the back of the property. I border that is my edge of my property. We'll share the right-of-way, with what they propose to put into alongside there. And that's my first contention. If they're gonna put a right-of-way in, put it in the middle. Don't inconvenience me with a access way on borders my property. Put it in the middle of, yeah, there you go. Put it in the middle of properties 4 and 5. But my biggest problem is, on the one hand, the one side of Osborne Road, there's 5 properties. Yes, that is my house right there. So, 5 properties. They want to put in 7 in the same linear footage. So how is that going to look compared one side of the road to the other side of the road? Long, narrow properties, okay? I don't agree with it. Yes, I'm the number 3 up there. I just don't, the aesthetics of it will not, you see how everybody matches up, everybody's kind of lined up there on Osborne Road, and then you're gonna go on the other side, and then they're gonna put 7 houses in, and they're gonna stagger them. They're not gonna be in a straight line down the road, they're gonna be offset, because they're going to cluster them. It will be horrendous, just to say the least. Initially, I was hoping they would put a cul-de-sac in the middle, retention basin in the bottom corner next to Dave Thaw's property. But obviously, he's not doing that. He thinks he can just leave that about the 10 to 12% slope in the back corner, let all the water run in, and it just, he washes his hands of the problems of the property in the back by the way he's building the properties in the front. And I'm the one that's going to have to sit there and stare at it. And I don't agree with it. I don't know if he mitigates the stormwater problems in the back or the front off of Osborne Road. Matt can probably attest to, when we have a lot of rain, a lot of water sits out on Osborne Road in that field. And where's it gonna go?
Luke, can you scan that picture up a little bit, just because I'm not getting, we're getting, or no?
Yeah, just, so,
Oh, up, you went down.
oh, up, okay, sorry. So this is the,
Yeah,
this
there-
is the
there you
parcel
go.
with the
Perfect.
development, yeah.
That's the parcel, yes. So you have those houses right there, and then he's going to line up 7 of them along in there.
All right, so across the street, you're referring to 5, there's actually 6. You're
Well,
talking
that one sits back.
Flag lot 1, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it sits all the way back. It sits behind the property right there.
Still fine.
So it's not sitting, it's doubled up. 30-5M-6, 3 acres sits behind the one in front of it. So even so, it's still one less. The way they want to line them up in there and then leave that back half, where, you can plant anything you want and put all kinds of grass and trees and everything, that water's still gonna come humming out of there and head right down into the corner of Dave's property. I wish he was here, but he is not. And he built a berm down in there to hold it up. Right now, there is a half-acre lake sitting down in the corner of that property, if you go down and look at it from the ring that we had the other night. He built a berm with a little drain pipe, and that water just runs straight down into the corner of his property. And no matter what you do, you can plant anything you want on that slope, on that back corner, it doesn't do it justice on the picture. When you stand at it, it's steep.
So you're talking about where the number 4 is situated?
Yes,
Okay.
right there, that whole corner. I didn't see the blueprints. I would like to see their plans because I build these things, so to see what he wanted to do, I can't get up close to it. But he's got a water problem on the front of the road, and he's at Osborne, and then he's got a severe water problem on the back. So
Is the field tilled or not tilled? Is it
right now, it
pasture
just
or
has
tilled?
grass in it. Right? Yeah.
Pardon me?
It just has weeds, just grass in it.
So it has not been tilled
No,
recently?
no.
That's plowed.
Oh, I know, I'm talking to he does it, so.
Oh.
That's why I'm looking at him.
So it's been pasture, it has been pasture land for at least 2 or 3 years?
No, it was soybeans last fall.
I'm sorry,
It
what?
was soybean field last fall.
So it has been tilled recently, okay?
Well, not now, it was just,
Well-
they harvested it.
Last 12 months it's been tilled, okay.
Well, now it's not, once the soybeans are done and once he, cultivated all that, then now it's just weeds. So it hasn't been plowed, you can't say that it's been tilled, there's no rows, nobody's touched it, so the water is moving in there, and it just, yeah, see how they're staggered, and there it is. So he has nothing, if that's his actual plans, there's nothing to mitigate the water problem that goes into the.
I thought they were planting grasses in that back
Yeah,
area.
that won't stop it.
They're just gonna,
No, not a chance.
I thought they were planting grasses and
There's-
some
there's a
landscaping.
landscaping.
Right,
Yeah,
some landscaping.
that slope on the backside back there is, it's at least 12%. And that will not, that water will come out of their yards, and it will still run into the corner, and it will still be a problem.
Well, I think it's engineered that it doesn't come out of their yards.
For the stormwater
For the
management.
stormwater management, or would never have been approved.
Well, so you're gonna have stormwater management for all their acres?
Well, you're gonna have a lot less water, because they have to manage their own water on those 7 lots. So that's 7 lots, which is, approximately 7 acres, out of the 14. I
So
think
you
it's a
still
little
have the
more than
6
that. I think
acres
it's
on the
almost 8
backside.
acres, will have to retain their own water instead of it going down the field now. So that's gonna eliminate at least half of the water flow. You still have the steep slopes, I understand that point, I'm not,
Yeah.
but I know, I live in an older development too, and when the pipeline came through,
Well-
they never fixed the slope the way it was. After 20 years, I've given up.
My other question is, besides, the water doesn't really affect me, I sit up above it, I'm just speaking there. The right-of-way, the access way to the back, is there a fence along, I can't tell, or do they put?
Yeah, I believe that we had a long discussion about that right away, because I was in favor of widening that right away and using that space in the back for something other than just vacant space. But as the planning commission members were here that day, we talked about that. And I guess being the fact that it was a sloped piece of parcel and not very usable friendly.
Yeah. Initially, when I looked back on the minutes of the meeting, she was talking about having a public access to the trailway and stuff like that. I am vehemently opposed.
Well, there are none, because they don't go anyplace.
Yeah, well, that's great, so let's keep it that way. So,
Kyle,
Yes.
can I interject for 1 second? The preliminary plan approval did require the access strip to be widened from 12 feet to 15 feet. It's not a right of way, it's actual fee simple ownership by the homeowners association. And the preliminary plan approval requires a fence to be, built on both sides of the entire length. The access way on the north side of lot 1 has to be bounded and demarcated on north and south side for the entire length by a 3-rail split rail wooden fence, which has to be maintained by the homeowners association. So anybody that's going to be utilizing that 15-foot wide strip to get to the open space in the rear will be contained within a fenced area and will not be able to go onto this gentleman's property.
And I'm assuming that, did we have any interested parties that wanted to be notified on this?
Well, so let me just do the bureaucratic background on this.
Right.
So, currently pending before the township is an application for final plan approval. It is currently on the agenda for planning commission review of that application in the planning commission's June meeting, which would be the first Wednesday in June. Kristen read aloud from the resolution giving conditional preliminary plan approval. What is projected on your screen is the plan that was given conditional plan approval and dated February 22nd, 2021. So there is a current application, but it's for final. It already has preliminary, which has given the developer certain rights in the layout. I think it is too late to make amendments there. I think one thing I think is of interest, we have in our code notification standards when we receive applications for, let's say, a variance or a conditional use or a special exception. We have no posting or mailing requirements for land development, and I think that is a valid critique that has been raised.
At least if they're requesting waivers, it should be notified, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we did have quite a bit of citizen involvement in this application, but that came about because the current landowner bought this at auction, and there were auction signs up on the property. And as long as there were auction signs up, I fielded at my office a number of concerns about it at auction. And when I took those calls, I made note of who made them, and then when I received the final plan, I gave them a courtesy call that it was going to be there. But there was no mailing that went to everybody who's adjacent to the property or anything like that.
I wasn't sure if there was one and one of the neighbors, we could ask him to talk to Mr. Welk, that's all. It's fine, that was my question.
So for a conditional use, we do have a mailing requirement.
Yes.
Okay. I was unclear on that.
No, well, actually, the expert is shaking her head.
I know for zoning changes or variance, we did.
Lisa is the expert, and she's shaking her head. It's probably just special exception and variances.
That's what I thought.
Well, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah,
The
go ahead,
MPC does not require any neighbor notification for any of what you just mentioned. Conditional uses, special exceptions, variances, or any land development applications. It does require posting of the property. Conditional uses and zoning hearings require posting of the property, which is the subject of the application, 7 days prior. The only time notification is sent is if you create that in your own zoning ordinance or your own subdivision ordinance.
Right.
Many municipalities do that, and they put the burden on the applicant to, for example, before a preliminary plan is filed, to send notice that the preliminary plan was filed and that it will be reviewed at future planning commission meetings. Sometimes, as representing developers and applicants, that's the first thing I do is I look at the respective municipalities' zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance to find out what is the notice requirement and who's responsible for it. Because depending upon the municipality, it varies. I think it is a really, really good idea. And I think when you have your application forms, you should, bold and highlight it so that applicants understand that that's a responsibility that you're imposing upon them. Because the problem is that neighbors, they don't, everyone's busy. They don't know what's going on. Even if you have a posting, people are driving by fast. They don't know what it means. They don't know what it says. So I think it's a really great idea. It's not that hard. I mean, one thing is I wouldn't require it to be certified mail because right now, at least with COVID, I know we weren't getting return receipts back from the green card. It's just regular mail. I think that that's a good requirement that's easily fixed in your ordinances.
And I don't even mean to lock the township up to having to do it. It would be a courtesy, and it would be something that we would write in the plan approval that we offer our residents on occasion a courtesy of some sort, because I also don't want to be held accountable if we were to forget somebody and they were 100 feet over the line of what we would consider a courtesy, but it's something that we could consider for sure.
Well, I'm not so sure the township should be responsible for notifying it. It's the person who has made the
Right.
land plan application is the one who's supposed to get the names and addresses of the adjacent property owners, and at their cost,
Yeah.
send it out.
I wouldn't have been late to the party if that was there. I assumed, that something before it was applied for, because I was under the assumption, which is my fault, that it was 1.5 acres. So, and then when the stakes went up, I'm like, okay, I'll get a notice. And my job, I travel extensively, so I'm not home. And it is.
And
very-
Mr. Belk, I would tell you that, and I can't speak for the developer, I don't even know who it is, but, just because the board doesn't impose something doesn't mean you can't have a dialogue with who
Yeah.
will be
Yeah.
neighbors. And if they're not done yet, and, hopefully they'll be respectful to you and hear your concerns, and maybe they supplement landscaping in certain areas, or, it's important to have that private dialogue as well.
Sure, yes, absolutely. My biggest concern is the 7 houses on narrow properties. As you can see, they're narrow. My house sits kind of funny, but it was built, you know, there, that's how my house, right there, yes. It sits that way because of the way the property is in the slope. So that back right-hand corner is my family room and my kitchen, and I will be staring at them as they go crooked down the road. And it just
And,
doesn't.
they may be willing to provide you some sort of buffering because, who knows with the construction,
Well,
if they're gonna,
I will
act-
put the buffer in myself, I
But
won't wait.
that's not going to be a paved road, that's gonna be a grass.
I know, I'm talking about the alignment of the houses. the
No, I
road,
got you,
yeah.
but I just wanted to clarify for my.
Yes, oh, if it was a paved
Yeah,
road, we'd be
yeah.
talking a different way. but-
The other thing to consider is, I can't remember whether there was any conditions applied to this or not, but in reality, they met every one of our zoning ordinances, and you can't deny
Yeah,
a
I
property
understand.
owner,
Yeah,
owner the right to
Yeah.
use their property.
yes.
Property, all you can make them do is if they're not going to use it based on the ordinances, they either have to go for a conditional use hearing or a special exception, or if they,
My biggest thing is line them up, make them straight. Put them straight. I have
I
just,
know, unfortunately, we can't.
yeah, I mean, because that just to
I
me
mean,
is just,
I attended the planning commission, and they actually suggested many different alternatives, but you can't force the builder to change, and
yeah, oh, I know about that.
he or she
Yes.
didn't.
But I can tell you that during the building phase, if water intrusion is not necessarily for you as a problem, but for the corner of the property, Chester County,
The road, yeah,
y-
yes.
they'll be on that, every-
They'll, oh, yes, I'm very familiar with them, yes, they will be on them,
and
yeah.
that sediment control must be in place.
Yeah.
And obviously, if
Yeah.
something was designed and it's inefficient, they would be involved with that as well.
I can't speak for Dave, but yeah, he bears the brunt of it. And, which one is it? It's one of the houses, it'd be across from lot number, no, on the other side of Osborne, it'd be across from lot number 6. He has a swale that goes through his front yard that comes off of Osborne. There is right, somewhere right in there is a pipe off in it, there's a swale in there, and that water,
What, does it go under the road?
yes, and it feeds out the other side, and it
But it
goes
is-
right alongside that's it, right there. And it goes right alongside his house, and right there where that pipe is and where that is, that fills up with water. And good luck to whoever buys that house right there. And what is in, and he doesn't have any plan to, what's he doing with that? I don't see an inlet, I don't see anything right there to show what he's gonna do with that water. Because Osborne Road on both sides comes down like this and it flattens out right there. So where's it going? On that side, and it comes all the way down from 322. Where that pipe is, right there, it sits. And where that house sits right there is a lake after it rains.
Right. Well, I don't want to speak for the
We're
developer. I
repeating
think
ourselves
the
now.
idea would be, very much like to see you at the June meeting of the planning commission.
I'll be here.
To direct these straight to the developer.
Yeah.
I can just speak to the general concept, is unlike many of our other cluster developments, there are no stormwater features on the common land. Each parcel has its own stormwater detention features, and each parcel has its own on-lot septic features.
That is for the surface area of the driveway, and that is for the drain spouts.
For all new impervious surface, they must manage it.
Yes, I'm well aware of that, but they are not going to take into regards what comes down Osborne Road, which is tens of thousands of gallons comes down Osborne Road from both sides. It feeds off of 322. It comes all the way down, and it comes from the other side, and it goes to that little pipe right there. And it sits right where that house is going to be. And there is no inlet, no anything on that plan right there that shows how it's going to get rid of that water.
So Kristen, is there a way that the township can intercede with stormwater management if we are able to show that there's standing water occurring, for the township safety for stormwater on that particular property?
Well, I think, and I'm not the engineer, but I'm pretty certain that the whole stormwater analysis deals with a drainage area. And so their engineer and then obviously Pannoni is looking at the whole drainage area and the water that's coming onto the slot today. So that's taken into account when the stormwater management calculations and designs are put into place. But, happy to speak to Nate a little bit more about that so that somebody can speak intelligently at the planning commission about it.
Well, because I think Mr. Welk's here, obviously, right now, he sees it every day after a rainstorm, and if you go back, Luke, scan down one more time, you can see the stormwater management's in the front of all these yards, which is good, but on the same token, it's gonna fail his stormwater management if he's catching all the stormwater from Osborne Road in his particular zone, so to speak, and then obviously the township's required to inspect that, therefore it's a township issue as well.
Yeah, I think it's important that Nate understands what he's saying and puts a little bit, focuses on that. I don't know, I mean, obviously they did get preliminary plan approval and that does include stormwater design. But, if more information is brought to Nate's attention, maybe there's something more they can do.
That little drainage area right there will be overwhelmed in a 2-inch rainstorm. It'll be done. It'll be coming out, and it's gonna sit there. There's enough water in there when my kids were little in the wintertime, it froze, we skated on it. So, put it that.
No, and it's important, obviously, with your insight, because as I said, the homeowner ultimately is responsible
Yes,
for that
those two
stormwater
people are gonna
management
bear the brunt of
after
it.
the builder is gone.
Yeah,
He's responsible.
he washes his hands, he paid too much money for that property by $250,000. I was interested in purchasing it, to tell you the truth, and then he just went and he spent $275,000, more than it's worth. There was multiple people, and Dave was included, were talking about buying it, and it just went.
Well, unfortunately for today, there's nothing we can do other than get you back to the planning commission meeting. When is that again?
It'd be the first Wednesday in June. And then, of course, the other action item is that the ordinance task force consider recommending a means of advertising new land developments.
Right.
They've got a very busy agenda, and that's something that
That's
he didn't
that's
retire
a
from
nice-
everything.
Commission meeting will be at night,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I understand. I'm not, there's things there. You get used to it. I've been used to standing at the field and. Yes, yeah.
And just as a sidebar, engineers, we didn't have gotten preliminary plan approval if there are stormwater calculations in that. They told us would, and they'll give us the okay to give them preliminary plan approval if their stormwater models didn't work. And they went back and forth, and they looked at the best way to do it. So the majority of that stormwater said to you, is being captured in the front yard of the stormwater management. Everything else is working its way through the natural drainage system. They do a post, area, pre, so they know how much water is coming and going, how much they have. So, your suggestion about the pipe, that would probably take into consideration, and by the way that it's graded, it looks like some of that water is bypassing that pipe going to their stormwater. Across my
Okay, that's always easy to see.
Or just, please come to the planning commission and.
Thank you, Mr. Welk.
I just have one question. Are we still considering changing the dates, the dates of the planning commission meetings?
So the planning commission at their last meeting changed their time. And so
Right.
as a follow-up to the time, their new meeting time is 7 o'clock. And so the
Right.
meeting in question would be Wednesday, June the 1st at 7 o'clock would be the planning commission meeting.
But
where
my
this will be
question is, we're
considered.
trying to streamline the process. At what point?
Yes. Uh,
Baby steps?
Yeah. I would do it one of the, honestly, the easiest fix to allow would be if the zoning hearing board met on the second Tuesday. But I don't know if that'll work with them, and I don't know, I haven't.
All right, the answer to my question is it's still in progress.
We have advertised a change in their meeting time, but not a change to their meeting date.
Right, I knew we
The easiest fix
advertised,
to
okay.
facilitate fast reviews of zoning hearing applications would be to move the date of the usual zoning hearing board.
But it's still in progress, that's the answer, thank you.
Somebody's gonna have to change, but yes.
Right.
Okay, and Mr. Thal did not make it tonight, I'm assuming, so we're, okay, understood. All right, so we're moving on to item D, settlement agreement, release of claims for Scott Pearsall versus East Brandywine Township and Jason Winters. And Kristen, I guess you'll handle that.
Sure. So there was a lawsuit that was filed in 2019 by Scott Pearsall. Your insurance company assigned counsel. Christine Munyon was the lawyer that negotiated this settlement agreement. I understand that she had an executive session with the board and had suggested that the board accept the settlement agreement or the settlement amount. The claims will all be dismissed when the plaintiff is paid $40,000. The insurance company will be covering $25,000 and the township will be paying $15,000. The settlement agreement has already been signed by Mr. Pearsall, and it is recommended that the board approve the settlement agreement, execute it, and the matter will be settled, discontinued, and ended.
I make a motion that we accept the settlement agreement and release the claims between Scott Pearsall versus East Brandywine Township and Jason Winters.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, escrow release number 16 for Hideaway Farm Phase 2. Luke, again.
All right, so included in your packet is a letter from Township Engineer Nathan Klein recommending the release number 16 from the Hideaway Farm Public Improvements Escrow for Phase 2. This is a little bit of a milestone. If approved, this would be the last remaining escrow release in all phases. So at this time, I'd respectfully ask the board consider approving escrow release number 16 for Phase 2 of the development.
Yeah, no, but
Sorry, Luke.
Not a problem. There were two prior escrow releases that were the final in the phases 1 and 3 that were considered at the last Board of Supervisors meeting. This one was not prepared in time for that meeting and is now before you today. I respectfully ask the board to consider authorizing escrow release number 16, the final escrow release for the Hideaway Farm Development Phase 2.
I'll make a motion to approve the escrow release number 16 of Hideaway Farms, which is Phase 2, which is the final release.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, public comment, I guess that's it. So public comment on non-agenda items.
Michael Wagoner. Two things. The notification to the residents, I want to bring that up in ordinance task force since it sounds like a great idea, but I just want to make clarification that the township will not be putting those out. That will be a part, that would the applicant will be doing that.
I
Is
guess
that
the
correct?
thought process is, because if the township misses somebody, then it puts us in jeopardy. If we could say to the applicant, hey, you're on the hook to send these out, and they miss somebody, then it puts them in jeopardy.
Okay, so the applicant was.
I also have a concern that we have to be very careful that we don't require notices to put a deck on
Right.
and things like that. It has to be a land development plan
Okay,
as a minimum. I mean, not anything below that, I mean, you can't.
Well, and here's, I guess, the next problem. What if somebody's putting up a purple fence? The resident might want to be, you know what I mean? So I don't know, maybe it's
Well, that's where our ordinances
Yeah.
come in, not,
So a land development is more than one residential unit or a commercial development. So, or Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, is it more than 2 residential units as a land development?
Yeah, it should be,
Even a simple subdivision would be
the
better.
notification should be where board action is required,
Right.
where either you as the board or the zoning hearing board need to give, have hearings and action. Land development, subdivision, zoning matters. Something that requires a building permit, that your building code official or your zoning officer for a zoning permit have the authority to approve. I don't think that's where this is intended to go. That's
Correct.
be
That's
way
what I
too much
I
administrative
would
work.
not support it getting that
Okay.
detailed.
And I know this is not the place for the debate, but I would strongly favor more physical marcation of the property than mailing, because sometimes affected parties aren't always adjacent. I like a big old sign more than I'd like a whole bunch of
Some
letters.
ordinances require a sign and a certified notice to all adjacent property owners. At least that's my experience when I've had to.
Some townships do that. And then the second one is, this comes up to the conversation of the earlier Board of Supervisors when we had the Mapleview residency here, and they were complaining about lack of parking. I'd like to have the ordinance task force take a look at the parking requirements for these sections, overlay sections, to see if we need to tweak them to make more. Because it's obvious that the tenants don't have enough parking when they have neighbors. And having satellite remote parking doesn't always work because it's not in close proximity to the building. So if there's support from the board, I'd like to move forward with that in the ordinance task force also.
You know you got my
Yeah,
support.
as mine as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, I don't think we have any notices. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, gentlemen.